Okay. So at this point, we are on page 10 of our instructions. We're going to begin working on our control board. The first thing it asks is to install our chip holder and our header for communications to this chip. So let's take a look at this. I'm not going to go through a lot of this because we've already soldered chip holders. But what we're going to do here, it's a quick reminder, is we have our notch to make sure. We're going to insert it. Here's the picture of the notch here. We're going to insert that correctly. And then we're going to flip it over and solder all the pins. We do not want to install the chip at this time. I repeat, we do not want to install the chip at this time. Okay, you need to pay attention to this board. It's labeled. This is the top. All the parts and labeling are going to go in, and we're going to solder on this side. Okay, don't get confused. For the most part, this is the top you're going to be working on. It's labeled. We have our header, which is basically a communications interface for our PIC programmer. Notice that this has two different links. One is short and one is long. There is no direction on this. We are going to install the short side into the board. And then we will solder all 10 pins. Be careful not to run these together. These are our communication protocols, but we're going to solder all 10 of these together. All right. Next, there are specific instructions on how they want to install the resistors. That was step 40, step 41 on page 10. Step 42 says R1 through R9 are 1 kilo ohm resistors. It lists these resistors shall install standing up. That's a little confusing. Basically what I'm looking for, and I will grade for it, is that they are all the same from different sides. Okay, but you're supposed to install the body of it closest to the IC chip, and by my reading of the instructions, the brown on the 1K will be at the top. And so here we have the brown 1K installed closest to the chip. We look at it over here. Here is our chips and our header, and it requests that all of the resistors be installed closest. Now, I would not cut these off, because when you're installing these, if you accidentally don't pull one tight, because they're just going to flop around, you know, once you get them done, you can bend them around and straighten them up. But if you perchance leave too much of wire sticking out, if you haven't cut it off, you can grasp firmly with a pair of tweezers. You can heat this solder up right here and give it a yank, and you'll probably be able to pull the tension out. So if you have too big a loop, if you didn't pull the wire far enough and it's sticking up here, I'm looking for symmetry when I do my grading. And so if I have too much wire, if I have half, that's also going to be a potential short. So we need to pull those down as snug as we can. And so if you cut the wires off before you realize your mistake, it's going to be a lot more headache to fix. But if you'll leave these wires longer until you're done, and then you can solder that and pull it through. You're going to install your transistors. Remember the flat side, they're labeled. You've got Q, this is step 43, Q1 through Q9. And it's imperative to use your heatsink when installing these. Okay, I've had some other classes where they've installed these and they didn't bother to use the heat sink, and they had to go back and start changing them. All right, so we're going to get that firmly seated on here. We want them all uniform, all in a little row. And then we're going to remember to clip our heat sink on here before you begin soldering. And the reason you have to do this before you install the 68 ohm resistors is because it's going to get in your way. So we're going to install our heat sink, and then we're going to solder each one of those points there. And so you're going to do that for step 43, Q1 through Q9. install them correctly, flat side to flat side. Notice the flat side. And that should take you through step 44. Once you've installed that, you'll repeat the resistor install using resistors R10 through R18. You'll be using a 68 ohm resistor. That's step 44. And at that point, we're going to conclude this video, but you're going to install all of these and all of these resistors.